persistent vomiting, and I feel nauseous all the time. And I don't know about you guys, but I hate feeling that way, even if it's for just like a day. And this person has been dealing with it for a month. And the doctor's only comment was that at least it's good to be like underweight. Like, what the fuck? I mean, I would understand if it's kind of like a joke, like, oh, like, you know, like, at least, you know, you're not gaining weight, you're losing weight, or I don't even know, that's not even funny. Even then, like, me saying that out loud, it doesn't even sound funny to me, but maybe it's funny to some people. But like in a serious situation, you know, it would be nice to have like that, oh gosh, I'm sorry that you're dealing with that, let's definitely look into it because you shouldn't be vomiting for like a month. That's ridiculous. So that's pretty much all I have to say about that one. That's ridiculous that the doctor felt the need to even make that type of comment in that situation. And then the next story that this person has is that they went to the A&E, which I think is like the ER or emergency room in America, and they were pleading with their doctor to help with pain. They said that Ehlers-Danlos syndrome causes them severe pain every single day, and you know they're going to the A&E because they're in severe pain because of this. And the doctor's comment was, well, you can't let it control your life. I never understand this type of comment, whether it's from doctors or people, when people are in severe pain. Like, you don't understand how hard it is to not let that affect your life. Like, how can you do daily things if you're in severe pain? I understand not like dwelling on things or like being super negative all the time, but like if you're in severe pain and it's interfering with daily life and activities, like how can you like ignore that? And this person was obviously in enough pain to go to an emergency room. I mean, at least here in America, it's expensive to go to those types of places, so I feel like at least I try to only go when it's like severe, and I'm sure most people do the same. So like if you're going to the emergency room for severe pain, it's obviously a big issue, and something that needs to be addressed. I don't know, that comment just grinds my gears. So on to the next set of stories. This person also had a few different interactions that they wanted me to react to. So they first went to a surgeon, a regular OBGYN, complaining of obviously like endometriosis or possible endometriosis that they wanted to look into. And this OBGYN said, I don't think you have endometriosis, but I'll do the or something, then yeah, like her comment is kind of rude. Like, I don't know, like I would want my doctor to respond with like, oh, okay, like, you know, maybe that's not a good thing, but let's just keep an eye on it. You can come in, you know, anytime if you feel like something's off, like we'll look into it. You know, because like just like sending me off to an emergency room is kind of dismissive in a way, but overall I feel like her response was semi-okay. Again, I kind of needed a little bit more context, but yeah, the next part of the story is my gynecologist who did my first surgery likely didn't remove any endometriosis and didn't send anything to pathology. They wrote on the official report, suspected endometriosis, and then told me at the post-op appointment that the printer in the hospital was not working, so they couldn't give me any pictures. So that's frustrating, because like I said, you have to get definitively diagnosed by, you know, removing the tissue and sending it to pathology, and like that was the whole point that you got the operation, right? Not for them to say, oh yeah, suspected endo. Like I knew I had suspected endo, that's why I did the damn surgery. And for the picture part, yeah, that's super frustrating. I mean, I don't know how it works. Like if they actually need the hospital printers, or like, why can't they just take the files and like put them in your report or something and like open it on a computer somewhere else and print them? Like, I don't really know how it works. I don't work in a hospital. I don't know like what protocol is for that or how that works, but like I would assume that you can actually like print them elsewhere. Like you don't need the hospital printer, but maybe you do. But either way, that's super frustrating. Okay, on to the next set of stories. This person also submitted two separate stories, but they're a little bit longer, at least the first one is. So I'm gonna go ahead and start with the first part of her story. So the first story starts out with, due to COVID, all appointments lately have been over the phone, and I received an unexpected phone call from my GP while I was at work. And this is how she chose to tell me I had suspected endometriosis and adenomyosis. Quote, you have endometriosis and adenomyosis, end quote. Then the doctor botched the explanation of both of these conditions. I had personally never heard of adenomyosis, so I had no idea what it was and had never been mentioned to me before. The doctor then continued, quote, your only two options are medically induced menopause or hysterectomy, and since you probably won't have kids, might as well go for the surgery. I'll sort out a referral now, end quote. This person responded to their doctor by saying no and that they wanted to think about things, and then they had to go back to work and act like everything was normal, and they ended up being sent home for being a hysterical mess. So yeah, I understand with COVID and everything, it's been hard, like with phone call appointments, it's less personal, and getting that type of, you know, big news over the phone is always hard. And I'm not surprised that they didn't know the correct definition or explanation for endometriosis and adenomyosis. Most doctors don't, unfortunately. And then the fact that they just like said, these are your options, you know, I think you should have surgery, so we're just gonna go with that, and like didn't ask for your consent. Yeah, that's not informed consent. Like they should be telling you all of your options. And I think that they even left out one, in my opinion. Like excision surgery is the gold standard treatment for endo, so that is an option. And yes, a hysterectomy will help with the adenomyosis, but not necessarily the endometriosis. And, you know, medically induced menopause isn't something that everybody wants to go through, but anyways, you know, they should be telling you all of your options, telling you the pros and cons to them, and then leaving the decision completely up to you, like, not pushing you in one way or the other, just telling you, you know, what's up, and, you know, it's up to you. So the second part of their story is, I got referred to a gynecologist who said I should go on the coil. crazy, and I'm so glad that you found a doctor that, like, could look past that and, like, actually was able to help you. So, on to the next story. This person said, Hiya. Firstly, I want to say that you are such a huge source of happiness and confidence for me. Your Instagram is so comforting, and you are literally such an angel. You deserve a life full of happiness. Oh, thank you. But now on to my horror story. For reference, I live in the UK. I've had painful periods for years, alongside painful sex and really bad bowel issues. It was misdiagnosed for IBS for years, but that's the least of my issues with doctors. After years of not being listened to, I finally got a gynecology appointment at my local hospital last October. I was so happy, and after that appointment, it was decided that I needed a diagnostic laparoscopy for suspected endometriosis after having a clear ultrasound. The laparoscopy was booked for the 23rd of March, so only last week. This is a little bit longer after they send this, but yeah. I should be sitting here with an answer, but alas, the gynecologist had other plans. I was genuinely looking forward to having my laparoscopy. Of course, I was nervous, but I was so hopeful that something could either be diagnosed and I'd have an answer, or something would be ruled out at least. I got a call a week before saying that my appointment had been canceled. I literally broke down in tears in public. The reason why? Well, after calling the hospital and speaking to my gynecologist's secretary, my gynecologist booked a holiday. She canceled my appointment last minute because she wanted to go to the Maldives. When I tried to rebook it, the earliest appointment I had been offered was in August. My pain had become increasingly worse to the point I can't walk around and shop without needing to sit down. But this woman is having a lovely time in the Maldives. Oh, and by the way, half the reason the earliest appointment is so far away is because her holiday is 4 weeks long. I'm so very sorry for this being long. I hope you are well. That is so unbelievably frustrating, and the fact that there's probably other people that also, like, had to get their appointments canceled, especially because it's 4 weeks long. That is so frustrating. Like, I understand that doctors need vacations, like everybody does, like, you know, especially for mental health, and doctors go through a lot, you know, with, you know, surgeries and appointments and patients, and I know, it's a lot. But yeah, it's so frustrating that they just, like, randomly called you up, like, a week before, you know, you're in this severe pain, it's getting increasingly worse, and now you have to wait, you know, all the way until August to get a surgery. I'm so sorry. Yeah, that is really frustrating, and the fact that, like, the gynecologist didn't call you, like, you know, and let you know personally, like, hey, I'm really sorry, like, I don't know, I would prefer that. I would prefer the gynecologist, like, actually reach out to me personally and let me know what's going on, and not, like, making me call a bunch of different, you know, places to get definitive answers as to what's the situation. So yeah, that's super frustrating, and I'm so sorry. So on to the next story. So in September of 2019, my endometriosis pain increased, and it was when I first started to end up in the ER. I didn't even know what endometriosis was. I was sent to an OBGYN in November of 2019, and at first she was sweet and seemed to really care about me. After 2 visits, it was clear that she really only did her job for the money. She put me on multiple birth controls and lied to insurance countless times about how she was advising me to see another doctor. She had never told me to get help from anyone else. She told me endometriosis was impossible for my age and that there was no way I was in such pain every day. She blamed it all on school and COVID, and that I needed to get antidepressants and see a counselor because I was so stressed and anxious, and that was what was making me, you know, have pain. So this doctor never wanted to schedule me for appointments and led me to believe that I was the issue and that I was the crazy one. I was belittled and torn by the fact that, quote, I was too young to feel what I was feeling. I was 15 when she told me to go on to medication to put me into medically induced menopause, and I was also 15 when she talked to me about having a hysterectomy. From age 14 to 15, I was stuck with this doctor who promised me so much and broke them. She lied and made it clear that she was annoyed with me. Yes, she did diagnose me with endometriosis, but she only did my surgery because she wanted to prove me wrong and, like, prove the fact that nothing was actually wrong. She put me in a bad spot mentally, and it took me 2 weeks to decide if I even wanted get the surgery or not because I was so scared that I actually was crazy. But I wasn't. She was wrong. She actually left after I had asked for my records. I'm glad that she's gone now. Jesus Christ. I mean, the fact that this surgeon wanted to do the surgery for the sole purpose of proving you wrong and like having the ability to say like, haha, see, like nothing's wrong with you, you're actually crazy, is insane. And it's also really odd that like she didn't tell you to go see different doctors, yet she wrote on your records and like with insurance, like, yeah, I'm trying to refer this person to see different doctors. I think that's really strange. Like, why wouldn't she just tell you? And again, blaming it on school and COVID and depression and like prescribing antidepressants, nothing new. Like, that's totally normal treatment. Not that it's acceptable in any way, but it's unfortunately the norm. For some reason, doctors like to blame everything but physical problems on our physical symptoms. And them like pushing for hysterectomy at such a young age is so wild. Like, doctors should not be pushing that type of thing on anybody, especially younger people. Like, it should be up to you, first of all. And like, being so young, like, you don't necessarily need a hysterectomy if they catch the endometriosis early enough. Like, and like, a hysterectomy doesn't even help endometriosis. It's not a cure for it. Nothing is. I don't know. That's super frustrating that she was trying to push for that, when in fact, like, that's not the gold standard treatment. That's not necessarily what you wanted. And you're so young. Like, that's crazy. And yeah, she diagnosed you with endometriosis, but other than that, like, she was really dismissive and rude, and yeah, that's a horrible experience to have, and I'm just glad that you don't have to see her anymore because she ended up leaving her practice. So we're gonna do 2 more stories just because my phone is kind of starting to give up on me. And these ones I did receive via DM, which is honestly fine. I don't mind it. I just prefer email, so I think the next time I do this, I'm just gonna tell people you can either DM me it or email it, because I know some people prefer to just DM, but yeah, so I got these via DM. So this first story is from a person that I had been chatting with a little bit before, just about their issues, and they said, "Hi Sam, last we talked, I think I told you I was going to see my gyno about my issues. Well, I finally had my appointment yesterday. It was awful. Because of a migraine condition I have, I am ineligible for birth control, which I don't want to be on regardless. So I went purely to get help without any of that. I had been keeping a symptom journal I wrote myself, notes to cover with her. Long story short, she talked over me and cut me off the whole time I was there. She didn't let me get through my symptom journal, and she told me that the likelihood that I do in fact have endometriosis is incredibly high based on what I've told her. Even if I did have endo, she can't treat me because the only way to treat it is with hormones, which, thanks to your page, I know is a lie. She told me that she doesn't recommend the surgery to 100% diagnose me with endometriosis because it's a unnecessary surgery to perform just to get a diagnosis for something that can only be treated with birth control, that she can't prescribe me. So she told me that I have 3 options. One is a mild injection that is safe for me to take with my condition. However, I don't remember the name of either of the injections she told me about. She said that this injection will put a blanket on my ovaries, but won't help with my ovarian cysts or endo. The second option is an even stronger injection that will put me into menopause for as long as it's in my system, or I can get a hysterectomy, which won't solve the problem, since it's in fact curable, which is true. Endometriosis cannot be cured with a hysterectomy. It has no cure. I've tried to get an IUD placed twice before I found out about endometriosis, both of which she was unable to place. is mysterious, and there's just a lot about it that we don't know. When I asked her what she recommended, she told me to take NSAIDs around the clock. It felt like I had wasted my time and money. I had been vulnerable with women I was supposed to be able to trust, and they ignored and dismissed everything I said. There was no concern, no wanting to help, and no viable solutions or next steps. It made me feel like I was making a big deal out of nothing, even though I knew something was actually wrong. I mean, to me, this is just a clear example of how it's not, our fault. It's not, our, issue of not being able to communicate clearly what's going on. A lot of doctors have that excuse that, like, oh, the patient isn't able to describe their pain and symptoms clear enough, but here is somebody, with a background in healthcare and has, the skill and ability to describe their symptoms clearly, and they still are being failed, and the medical system is just wild. I mean, I will agree that the female body is mysterious, and there is a lot that doctors don't know about it, but that's not, an excuse to just, like, stop exams and testing and, like, to just leave you in the dark. Yeah, I know that the medical system doesn't know a lot about female anatomy, and there's a lot of, like, research that hasn't been done on female issues, but yeah, that's just not an excuse and not a good way to, like, say, I don't really know. Like, honestly, I think all of us can agree if a doctor doesn't know what to do, or doesn't know the next steps, or doesn't, know the next exams or testing that should be ran, they should just be honest and say, listen, this isn't my area of specialty, I'll just refer you to somebody else. Like, I would prefer that. I'm sure everybody else would too. And it's just funny that they recommended you take, over-the-counter painkillers around the clock, because one, like, that's not normal. I'm pretty sure every doctor can agree that, like, you shouldn't be taking ibuprofen every single day around the clock. Like, that's not good for you. And the fact that, like, they're willing to just let you off the hook with that kind of advice is crazy. Yeah, crazy